Ooh, hello. Ah, and we shall remove that. Save changes. Okay. Sorry about that. We just had a little blip there, Oh, we're trying to link up to LinkedIn, and it's just not linking. So, with that, I am your host, Daniel Crosier, and this is Cafe Crash. I am here with my guests, Amber MacPherson and Nick Goins Jr. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Hang on there.
Wow, you're so optimistic. Guys, so you've got Makeshift Film Group, right?
Yeah.
That's your big piece. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and how you got into filmmaking, media, and just being badass assassins.
Nice. Here we go first. All right. I'm Nick C. Goins Jr. And I started Makeshift Film Group when I was 16, trying to do my first film, which was called, in high school, called Bored Kids and Random Violence. And it was, it was literally just, it was so ridiculous. It was nearly a feature. I think it ran just over an hour, but it was basically just a cartoon version of me hanging out in the highlands of Louisville, Kentucky, with clown bank robbers and the devil trying to sell drugs to the kids, take over the world. And so when I wrote the first screenplay for Bored Kids and Random Violence, I had as the production company, it was Makeshift Productions at the point, but when I came to actually incorporating Makeshift Film Group, that name was taken, so I had to come up with another name.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to do film since I was 9, and when I was 16, I actually got around to shooting something, and I've been bouncing around ever since.
Cool. Now, Amber.
Well, I tend to help out with the less exciting business-related aspects of the company on the back end. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I have a screenplay that I'm working on as well, but it's
Nice.
first draft, so it's completed, but it needs work.
Yeah. Well, cool. And you've got a nonprofit too that you're putting together.
Yeah, actually, that year that you were at AFM with us, I was actually doing pretty good in my pitches, and I'm bouncing out of rooms left and right. We had a full docket. We did our research that year, but I had a lot of these other younger filmmakers who have been told you come to AFM to go and sell your movie.
Yeah,
You're not prepared or just scared shitless, trying to pitch. And they said, "How do you do it? It seems like it's working." And I said, it kind of just came out of my mouth. I said, your fear can't be greater than your will to succeed. And my fear was greater than my will to succeed the first time I went to AFM because I shit the bed.
Yeah.
And so I said, when it really came down to it, I'm here because I learned a lot about how to look at the business angle of this. Whereas whether you're going to film school or not, a lot of them aren't teaching that. So I said, how can I go and come up with something? How can I essentially go and put something together to for people who don't have that background or don't have that knowledge? Can I package it together and say, let's go and take a look at your creative endeavor from inception to execution and then exhibition, selling the damn thing. How's that going to look out? So when you go and plan your projects or do whatever you're trying to do, you can do and you can engender far more confidence than you would just having a screenplay and a camera. Because that's great and all, and you can get something finished. But is anybody going to watch it, and can you sell it?
Right.
So MEME stands for Makeshift Entertainment Media Education. It's a nonprofit that's going to focus on education and the business aspects of the industry. And fundamentally, we have an event we want to put on, and it was going to be a live event, but we have to make alternative plans now to make it virtual in case this doesn't clear up anytime soon. But as we're waiting to get our nonprofit status approved by the IRS, which has been exceptionally slow due to COVID. We applied easy back in April, and so we're still waiting on that. And so once we have that approved and we can apply for more funding sources, it will ultimately be for this main event that is a business education event.
Cool.
Yeah, the event is called C4, or Content Creators Crash Course.
Just C4, the letter C and the number 4.
Yeah,
Nice.
needed something that had been.
Sounds like something directed by James Cameron.
Oh God.
No, I wouldn't refer to him as that. You know, that's
Yeah, but that means you have to have Michael Biehn in it or something.
So that's cool. So you know, while you're waiting for your nonprofit status to be approved, can you, like you were talking about transitioning things to online, you know, as most things are now, that can be. Have you talked about like doing like little teaching sessions maybe online, or you know, workshops and seminars?
Well, that's part of trying to come up with how this would look like online, because a key component of C4 is how it's structured.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to come up with something that would follow that basic structure, but still give you, you know, those tiny little manageable nuggets.
Right.
Outside of that, it's a matter of finding the pro or the speaker to go and do it. I know we'd talked about reaching out to Alex Ferrari of Indie Film Puzzle, to Emily Best of Seed and Spark.
Okay.
And both of those people are really into helping and educating independent filmmakers and independent content creators, specifically also in the business aspects of it. You know.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. Well, prior to COVID, and probably not now, but hopefully again in the future, Seed and Spark did have a program of sorts where they would help with small educational events for women in film. And so I don't know how that looks now or how it will look in the future, but it is something that Seed and Spark was a part of at some point. So
Nice.
There's a few people we want to talk to that we will reach out to at some point.
That yeah, the nice thing too about like COVID that I've been finding is so many of those people that you normally wouldn't be able to reach out to or connect with, they're in the same situation that you are. So you know, it's so much easier to just reach out to them and actually be able to engage. And have you been finding that have you been able to do some of that, and have you been successful?
I mean, I've sent out a query or two at the beginning of COVID. I did try to do that, but since at that point we had no idea how serious this was going to become, and then of course it did. So everybody started scrambling to go and pivot whatever they were doing. So you have a lot of content creators who can't go and put together crews like they would normally do, or had to go and scuttle their projects doing things like this program right here.
Yep.
Where you're creating content, you're keeping it moving, and engaging people, and keeping them interested, but doing it from the safety of home and isolation.
Yeah, except we also broadcast on Craigslist, so there's no safety there.
I haven't reached out to many people yet, simply because in order to make a serious offer to anyone, we have to have the funding, and without the status, it's hard to get the funding. And so it's just been a stepwise issue where until we have the IRS, until they approve our status, it's hard to move forward.
Yeah. Christina just posted BRB. I don't know what you guys, if that means anything to you guys.
Bacon, recidivist, boogaloo.
I don't know. Yeah, I just asked what is BRB? So I figured it's like bring rum, boys.
I think you may be correct.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. So, yeah, you and I a couple years ago we went out to well, I met up with you at American Film Market, and you guys talked me into going out and experiencing that and pitching some of our projects and stuff. And yeah, as Mike Foster said, "Be right back." That makes so much more sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, there's that post, BRB. Okay. Yeah. Oh my God, I am too old. I'm and dense. Like this is all wood. The steel plate has been switched out for something more affordable. But back to like American Film Market, for anybody out there who hasn't experienced that, that is an amazing gauntlet. We made solid connections with like Comedy Dynamics on some of the projects that we're working with, and we ended up running into a couple film agencies from different countries, so that was interesting. I love the language gap. If anybody knows me, I'm terrible with any kind of language, and English, especially English. I can sign, if you give me a pen. That was a terrible joke. Sorry. Let's skip over that. Yeah. Awful. But it was an exciting experience because, you really have to learn real quick how to engage your ideas, show that you're passionate, you're willing to fight for your stuff. I mean, I left so many corpses in the elevator after those elevator pitches. I actually did literally have an elevator pitch in an elevator. That was hilarious. I even thought about that, while I was talking to the guy, in the elevator. It's like, I'm having an elevator pitch in an elevator. Why are we going down? Oh, damn you, omens. So, but I do recommend, anybody just going through that experience, because so many of us, as on the creative side, I think are introverts, and having to sell yourself like that and your work, I think even if you aren't successful in getting a project picked up, it's very successful in just being there, participating, and kind of learning what the film industry aspect is on
Indeed. That. It's a great place to fail upward.
Yeah, that's a beautiful term.
Yeah, it's a great place to fail upward. As I said before, the first year I ate shit, fell flat on my face. My first elevator pitch was actually out in the street, about a block away from the one of the screening rooms, and it was this very charming lady from Australia, and she said, "So you're what, a producer or something?" I said, "Yeah." She's like, "What do you got?" And I went, and she's like, "It's okay. You'll do better. Just remember this moment. Have a good market." And she walked off, and I'm like, "Well, I did. Well, I mean, I had pitches where I felt like crap after."
Okay.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I pitched Thunderlord.
Yeah.
And I overheard the guy, one of his compatriots came in. He's like, "So what was that about?" He's like, "Oh, it was niggers in space." And I almost ran back in that room.
Oh.
I stopped myself and I said, "You knew you were going to hear some stuff like this, because in this business there are a ton of assholes. Mm-hmm. Right? There are a lot of great people too." Right. And I did meet some of those people, like Angel, MJ. Like who's the other Aussie? We've met a lot of great Australians.
Yeah, we have.
Nice.
But I had to tell myself, you knew you were going to meet these people. You knew you're in California, right? You knew you were going to see the guy in a nice California casual suit with his cell phone up to his head and talking into a dead phone about how good his pitch was. Totally dead. Totally dead.
Nice.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you really notice that too when he gets a call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, wait a minute.
But if you weren't there for a pitch, the biggest thing was the networking opportunities. Just meeting awesome people, not only fellow creators, but people who, you know, are there for, what's it now, 5 to 6 days now? They cut it down from 10.
Okay.
It's totally digital this year. We're actually signed up for that too.
Oh, nice.
Doing that actually right now. I've been doing NAB, the NAB online thing.
Cool.
But just tons of really cool people and a lot of knowledge.
Nice. That's cool. You mentioned Thunderlord. I think that was the project that you guys have been developing. When I initially met you, I think I met you years ago over at Monster Makeup Effects.
Yeah.
With Midian. And I can't remember what she was doing. She was doing either a makeup test or baking a cake. I can't remember. But you guys came by and I think you were talking about Thunderlord back then. Can you share what that project is or?
So Thunderlord is the reason why I went from just having Makeshift be essentially a DBA to being an LLC.
Okay.
So friends and I, Matthew Fricella, we were sitting around with another friend, Spencer, and we said, "Hey, we've been talking about doing this movie thing or shooting something. Let's just come up with some ideas." And so he came up with a mini series called One Die Short, based off of a comic that he had created.
Cool.
About D&D players and brief segues into their game.
Nice.
Spencer, I can't remember what Spencer ended up doing with his, but I came up with Thunderlord, The Adventures of Dick Cockney. That still cracks me up.
Dick Cockney.
It's the project we've been working on the longest. It's clearly the most difficult. It's absolutely ambitious.
Yeah.
But had it not been for me trying to develop Thunderlord, I would not have gone to AFM. I would not have created all the other IPs that we've created, and would not have met the people I've met or learned what I learned about being in this business. And so we're still working on it. It's still something that if we're able to do it, we're going to jump on it. But definitely some of the movements we've been making during COVID are going to hopefully help us get closer to shooting Stormfall. You remember the short one that Yeah. So one of the things that I encountered at AFM was, okay, so we see all this stuff. What's happening more and more is they actually want to see some piece of it before they don't get to anything or even say, what the next step is. And so Stormfall was meant to be this proof of concept that we would go and use, but could also be something we put out there as actual content, not just as a showpiece for buyers.
Cool.
Yeah.
So aside from COVID, which kind of ransacked everything, where were you with some of these film and TV projects? Were you getting ready to shoot Stormfall or?
No, I mean, we had gotten as far as figuring out a lot of what the budget to what the line items were going to be.
Okay.
Because of you can't really do Thunderlord with
cardboard
and styrofoam spaceships and whatnot.
However, you can, but just not the quality that you're going for.
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, that's how it started out. I wanted to go and do something that was, one of these. We go and shoot this thing and do everything in 2 weeks from the 70s, and then as I started writing it, like what happens to a lot of good stories is you start giving a shit about it, and so it became bigger and bigger until.
Damn it. Don't give a shit.
No, just developing and keeping an eye on how the industry is going, because, and you see this in a lot of filmmakers, there's the tech guy, but a lot of times the filmmakers are not very tech savvy, and tech is taking over this industry. Right. And so part of this thing with the NAB conferences is the post-production conference, where they're talking about all these tools. Yeah. There was a fellow, there was a podcast that you showed me, the guy who did the Monsters of Man.
It was Indie Film Hustle.
Indie Film Hustle, Alex Ferrari. And you had this fellow, God, it was under $2 million, right?
Yeah, it was less than $2 million.
Less than $2 million, and it looks like a Hollywood film. And he shot it in the Golden Triangle.
Wow.
But the production values on it are excellent, are astounding.
Yeah.
And whereas for something like that, $2 million would have been your effects budget. I believe his budget for visual effects was somewhere around $600,000.
I don't remember the breakdown on that, but he did have a lot of previous experience.
He had experience.
Yeah,
nice.
With the technology, with these softwares.
You'll have to share that with us so that we can post it.
Yeah, indeed. So just learning a lot. Because you increase efficiency on your projects, they become cheaper. And frankly, if we're going to do Stormfall at all, bringing the cost down is going to be key. But it also follows into meeting people. Yeah. Meeting people who are interested, meeting people who can contribute meaningfully to it, and make it the best that it possibly can be. But yeah.
Well, for clarity, for those who may not know, Stormfall is set in the same world as Thunderlord. It's set in the same universe. Stormfall is a sort of, I guess, prequel is probably not the right word, but it does happen in time before Thunderlord, correct?
Yeah.
And it is the less expensive version.
Okay.
Even if we were to expand it out to feature length, that would still be the case. But it's still less expensive in a relative sense, right?
Nice.
And that's the thing that we could work on to increase our odds of getting that one put out.
Nice. Well, yeah. Since we exist now in the COVID universe, I think that's like the Marvel 616, maybe. I don't know. What do you see like going forward as far as like filmmaking? I'm sure you've reviewed new production guidelines. They're always updating that stuff as everybody, gets new information on this pandemic and everything. But, is there any, can you actually make plans, or, do you just focus on, creating content made for streaming?
I think, considering the resources there are out there and the ability to go and learn about this industry, podcasts like Indie Film Hustle, making contacts on LinkedIn, there are a ton of people putting up content about the state of the industry. I think right now you should be learning as much as you can about these new digital tools. They're going to increase, I keep on saying this, they're going to increase efficiency, because if you thought there's a ton of content out there. It's a crunch, which is why, a lot of these smaller films get lost in the lurch and a push to go and make things bigger, brighter, and flashier. You're going to be competing against that. Nobody was ready for the downfall of the movie theaters.
Right.
And so now you've got this crunch, and you've got a whole bunch of people who don't know how dealing with deal flow with a streamer works versus dealing with theatrical releases or even home video. It's a completely different animal. Right. And a lot of that means leveraging tech, leveraging new software, and keeping that in mind. The old way is gone. It's dead. So you, to a degree, you can plan. We've been pivoting. I think it's very smart to go and pivot and see what this new landscape is going to look like. A lot of it's going to be pushing towards doing a lot of things yourself, selling yourself, becoming the brand. You know, a lot of people go see Tarantino movies just because it says it's a Tarantino movie, and they know what they're getting. Which is if I could go and smear poop on the screen and animate it at 30 frames, and people will still go see it.
That sounds exciting.
Oh God, I'm ready. I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's you know, it's really you know, hard to watch, you know, film theaters, you know, start to dwindle or start to close up shop and everything. You know, during this, they tried making a go of it with some releases, like Tenet, I think is probably the most notable. And I think there was a couple other films that you could see the Bill and Ted Face the Music in theater and on streaming, which right now it's like, as much as I miss that, it's like I couldn't even imagine being in a theater. Just with my health limitations, I'd have to bring in my own oxygen. So just to be on the safe side. But yes, seeing that stuff at home as a consumer and as a film fan, it's been very comforting during a tough time. And so when I talk to production people, you know, when they're actually still, some of them still doing production, it's either very scaled down production, which, you know, as limited amount of people as possible, you know, spaced out, everybody's in masks except for, you know, whoever's in front of the camera. And then, you know, when you hear about these like big budget, like the Marvel movies, unless you're filming outside of the country, you know, it's almost not going to happen. It seems. Yeah. I'm sure I'm wrong on a couple occasions. That's Shang-Chi movie. They were filming in San Francisco, probably because the streets are cleared. So, but yeah, it's pretty remarkable to, I think, wrap your head around the scope of that just for like one industry, you know, the arts and entertainment industry.
I think it will stay that way until we have a viable, affordable, effective vaccine. And then I suspect that will be part of your contract, that you have to get it.
Right.
So it would make sense.
So 2050, after everybody's, you know, stops making money off of this, it's like, oh, let's just sell it for $10. Who cares?
I think we'll teach a lot of things cheaper.
Yes, definitely. I think save for people like Christopher Nolan, whose brand seems to be increasingly complex and expensive movies.
Right.
These are going to be leaner years.
Right.
Simply because how you make money through a streamer is not the same as ticket sales or unit sales. And so, I mean, I don't know of any really. Do you like $200 million Netflix originals? Do you?
I don't.
I mean, if you're spending that money, you're making a series.
Right. Most definitely. That seems to be, you know, what definitely keeps people glued into their streaming service is, you know, what that series is. Whether it's like the upcoming Mandalorian or Netflix's, you know, House on Haunted Hill or Stranger Things and stuff. You know, Disney's got also, I think, like the Marvel, the only Marvel entry for this year will be WandaVision.
Oh boy! Did you just say House on Haunted Hill as a series?
Did I say that right? House on Haunted Hill or Haunting of Hill House? Sorry,
Haunting of Hill House. Okay, so from the Haunting of Hill House. That's from a book, and then you had the William Castle thing. I was about to say,
Blind Manor.
You know, the Oregon Trail series.
The Oregon Trail series.
Yes. You know, with the
I remember that game.
I mean, not a cheap project.
Yeah.
Now you've got some more projects that you were working on. You were working on some TV. We were talking about streaming TV series. You were working on a TV series, I think, something with regards to vampires, and then I mean, you guys do dabble a lot in horror, because we were talking about before we went live, like Lovecraft Country, and some of the Lovecraftian influence projects that you're working on.
Well, I mean, Makeshift was, from its inception and at the very beginning, a vehicle for me to go and tell the weirdness I wanted to go and tell. So there weren't going to be any merchant ivory dramas or anything in there. But as we got on with learning about how things were working and looking at how more and more series are being produced, we're looking at what episodic television would look like. And so we did I started Miskatonic U, which I wanted to do. Much of H.P. Lovecraft's work is in the public domain. So a lot of the famous characters that people, have little plushy dolls up made out of Cthulhu and things like that, you can use freely. While at the same time taking out all of the xenophobia and racism. That you get into a lot of that, and utilizing all that Lovecraftian goodness, but also forgive me, fans of H.P. Lovecraft, wiping my ass with H.P. Lovecraft, because he was a dick. The horror at Red Hawk or Red Cliff.
I forget.
Oh,
the title.
Yeah, horror at Red Hook, where
it's
set in Harlem, because he was angry because his Jewish wife made him move to New York, and he had to see all the black people in Harlem, and so he turned them into monsters.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and I just watched. Was it horror noir or American noir? The documentary on Shudder about the black experience with horror films and stuff. Talking about like The Creature of the Black Lagoon, and treating that the creature, the monster, as the other, the outsider, and even the black person. And it's just like, holy crap, I never even thought about that analogy, but yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it's a unique experience being a person of color and liking genre, filmmaking, any type of storytelling, comic books, and things like that. Because it's not a big part of that experience, or traditionally hasn't been.
Right.
There are plenty of Black and Hispanic and Asian fans of Freddy Krueger and C-3PO. Looking at it from a cultural sense, it's not really been really a focus. But we have people like Jordan Peele making great movies like Get Out, which blew me away. I'm like, this now's the time to do it, though. And then me with horror and science fiction and fantasy. Those are the things that I like. But bringing my own experience, reading books by R.A. Salvatore, and noticing that the only black people are the drow, evil dark elves. So, creating things from my own perspective that are unique and speak to it without ringing a bell every 5 seconds, because I don't want to stop the story to go and make a social statement. The diversity of my characters is because the world is a diverse thing, and you can't ignore that anymore, right? We have internets. Doing Miskatonic U and having this cast and having something, I was really inspired by the X-Files. And, you see a lot of these series where it's just one big story going from end to end. And I like the fact that every now and again it would connect the larger mythos together, but you had standalone stories that you could go and explore the characters.
Right.
So that's Miskatonic U. And there's a lot to it, so I won't go into it. But there's another one that I wanted to do purely because it's interesting up here. And there's a lot of weirdness and history in the high country, and it's called Detterland. And that's where you got the vampire thing from.
Right.
Because the first episode would have been the rockabilly vampire ex-Roman soldier.
Nice.
But, you
That
know,
seems
yeah, having something that utilized the peak-to-peak wilderness and the peak-to-peak community and all the weirdness is up here, and creating some sort of mythical narrative based around all the funky weirdness of Netherland and Black Hawk and Ward,
Cool.
and try to do something fun with that. That would also be way cheaper than Miskatonic U.
Yeah. Well, that would be pretty cool. I mean, you and I have talked about, you know, getting that going and working on that just a little bit and stuff. Obviously, that's, you know, everything's delayed.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's no shortage of your stable of, you know, concepts and scripts and ideas. Amber, it looks like you have a fan. Looks like Carmen Slam Diego said, "What? This talented roller girl? You two are so creative. It's great to see you guys are doing your thing."
I miss you, Jose.
So, yeah, it's you guys got your fans out there. When you know, like getting on these, you know, film projects and stuff, and you know, Nick, you mentioned you started you know, making your own films back at age, you know, 16 or high school and everything. What were like you know, some of the big influences, like the direct influences for you?
So I was never really one, especially then. I was a big cineast even then, to go and say that I had one or even three people who were my favorite directors or writers or whatnot. I write, or I was inspired. I am inspired by how I feel when I watch something. So when I was knee-high to a grasshopper and I saw the Star Wars films, I was blown away, and I'd dream about them, and I'd come up with my own scenarios. It was about how they made me feel that makes me, you know, do that and inspire my own stories. Definitely, if I'm just going to throw out some names. Steven Spielberg is definitely a big influence because big ideas and a lot of fun. Younger George Lucas specifically, because you have this young guy doing this very imaginative thing. And, you know, while his writing was the best, he was incredibly innovative as far as his visual representation. Getting older, I was never really a Tarantino fan. I appreciated it. The best thing I think he's done was True Romance.
Okay. Writing that.
Well, yeah. The rest of it, it's like, you know, if I went and chopped together my favorite movies and put fucking motherfucker every other word and then boost myself off. Now, it's I'm being very I'm generalizing there, but I liked Michael Mann, and I liked Glengarry Glen Ross.
Heat,
yeah.
You're talking about the author?
Yeah.
The writer?
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, we're both on the blank.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
No, movies like, you know, the Exorcist 3, which got to hell, but it's got one of the best jump scares in film history, and there's a great interplay between the characters and a great performance by Brad Dourif, Gary Glenn Ross. So things that were very imaginative, you know, like I loved Willow, and people kept on telling me, "Oh, it's basically just the Hobbit," and I'm like, I don't give a shit. It was fun.
Yeah, it's still a lot of fun. It's great with a lot of those films because they, you know, even like Willow, you know, wasn't a box office hit or anything, but it's got an amazing cult following.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's such a fun movie. Even now, you can go back and watch it, and yeah, I can't remember the story of why they made it, but yeah, other than George at the time wanted to do some version of the Lord of the Rings, and either couldn't get the rights, which is I couldn't imagine why not, but yeah, if you can't get the rights, just make your own.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how like movies like Legend kind of came to the end too. It's like, yeah, we want to make Lord of the Rings, but this thing, and we can only afford to do this thing. so make the most out of that. Be really innovative in that little box.
Yeah.
So
I think this thing is even going through time and getting older and going from Star Wars to The Matrix or whatever. I could still go back to those younger movies and be a kid again. Yeah. And I think that informs a lot of what I want to do, is kind of going back to that, I won't say simplicity, but going back to that innocence, right, and doing something that's silly or doing something that, makes you look underneath the bed for the boogeyman.
Yeah.
Going back to that purity.
Yeah. Amber, do you ever have those same type of experiences? Anything that has stayed with you?
Oh yeah, I mean, growing up, similar time frame as Nick, different location, different part of the world, sort of, but also was a big Star Wars fan, and a lot of the same movies like Legend and Labyrinth growing up really were big for their time and really stuck with me. I also enjoy the fantastic. I also like quality escapism. I loved the X-Files growing up as well. I was pretty obsessed with it. And in fact, Scully is probably why I have my day job.
Oh, cool.
Not exactly because I'm not a doctor, but somewhere field. But I also love the Miyazaki films. I love the storytelling in the films, even though I haven't done anything with animation. I appreciate a quality animated film, and it's just the way the stories are told, the pacing, the level of detail, and the humanity of it. I really like that as well. I love a good drama as well as the next person, but I really do enjoy my escapism. So.
Right. I especially during these days, I'm always finding the new escapist route, whether it's a film or a TV series. There's so much content that it's auditioning for my attention, and I'm so busy like sitting there drawing. That's usually how I watch movies now. It's really awful. I listen. They're my audiobooks, while I'm sitting there sketching away on something. What's that?
What's the trick, though? Isn't it? It's balancing media consumption with media creation.
Right. Yeah, I'm not very successful with that. I'm not a good sponge in that sense. So, but yeah, it's definitely a trying time. With what it sounds like you guys are keeping really busy in the sense of working on the nonprofit, waiting for that snail pace processing of the paperwork, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then doing the AFM online component. Have you like looked at bringing in more people to kind of gear towards the AFM as far as the education aspect of it, during the pandemic and everything, even not on a level of operating as a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm. Really, it's going for something like this at this time, especially with another event that's going to be coming up in a few days, less than a week.
Okay.
It's better to go and wait and jump into it with a brand new year instead of doing something at the end of this one, because it's a shit show out there.
Okay.
And it's better to go and marshal your resources with a clean slate and new year, fresh eyes than it is to follow the drain all the way to the dump.
Yeah. And Nick, aren't you also working with the Colorado? Is it the Colorado Film Commission or?
No, I was affiliated with CFVA,
right.
and I still talk to some people there. And when we get Meme and C4 operational, we really want to utilize this platform, this nonprofit, to kind of reach out in concentric circles. So definitely starting Colorado first and getting people like the Colorado Film and Video Association, Denver Film Society, and WIF & Co. Women in Film Colorado involved, as well as anybody here in the state from the guilds like Sheila Traster and SAG-AFTRA, and anybody from ATSI and anybody else to go and get together and put together this singular package of education for this industry.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. The oh shit! I had another question all lined up, and I'm spacing out, man. I need more coffee or some stupid shit. It's like
always need coffee.
Yeah, I know. It's like we always need coffee. It's like, come on, black blood of creativity. Go right. It's like why stop there? I've got an artery right here. Go big or go home. But like when you and I would talk about, the two of you and I would talk about like Thunderlord and kind of the B movie aspect and stuff. Are there also a lot of B films that helped influence that aspect?
Oh, of course. Sam Raimi and Peter Jackson's early work, highly creative, low budget stuff that was really the reason why these guys are in the industry today. I mean, some of the technical stuff outside of the dark humor that you see in the Evil Dead movies and series, but the technical problems that they surmounted on the first feature, and then to go and take it to the next level with Evil Dead 2, which is still my favorite of all the Evil Dead movies, was astounding. And then you've got Peter Jackson with Brain Dead in New Zealand, taking years, his own money, and borrowed cameras. You see him play two different characters and him losing weight with his friends and doing this movie I lost my shit when I saw it the first time. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing.
John Carpenter is another one. A guy who, I mean, having no money and turning his what he couldn't do with a budget into this really profound minimalism that pervades most of it, especially his early work, is great. Guys like that, who had creative solutions to very hard problems, because every single one of those movies that I just mentioned, Sodom Precinct 13, Escape from New York, those movies could have been easily forgotten, because around the same time Escape from New York came out, there were a ton of it's the apocalypse and it's New York and one man.
Yeah.
And it stands out. It stands out,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to see like a lot of his work. I think too, like you were talking about like the minimalism of everything. It's those limitations that breed, I think, innovation. You've got, it's like, how do I bring the production value? How do I bring the story and the performance to something? It's like, we've got limited budget, we've got limited resources. How do we make the most of this? And it's remarkable to find those gems out there, those diamonds in the rough, that made it work.
Oh, indeed. And I go and mention these directors and everything like that, but you cannot go and say anything about those films without acknowledging the incredible contributions and the problem-solving skills of these directors' crews.
Right.
Coming up with things on the day, not having any time to go and do a tech scout, and you go and get up ass early in the morning, go and run around and figure out whether, your gear's going to work at all there. Or do you have enough lights? You don't have enough lights. How are we going to make this work without the lights?
Right. Have you guys been put in those situations? I know, Amber, weren't you working on some outside productions projects in the last few years?
I jumped in on a few local productions just for the experience. Get out there and get some hands-on time on some projects. So I was in a 48-hour project.
Oh, cool.
And then one project. It was all before COVID, so nothing lately.
Yeah. But what was your takeaway on some of those projects?
I mean,
especially 48 hours, man. You're gunning.
For sure. The pacing was really something to behold. But it was a great experience. It's really great to have to make the adjustments that you need to get something done that quickly and to make it as good as you can at the same time. And so I appreciate that perspective, and it was a good experience. So.
Nice. Nick, have you had that type of experience too, where you've been put in a corner and?
Oh yeah. That was Bored Kids and Random Violence, and then a few short films I did where it was literally, we've got $60 and there's an ace up the street. Let's figure it out, fellas.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the thing is that in many cases, what you end up with that is just as good as if you had the proper equipment. And just a lot of fun to go and say, I did that with some baling wire and a 2-liter filled with gelatin to go and get that effect, or whatever.
Yeah.
To go and solve the problem. But that's part of what made it exciting, was solving the problem and not just freaking out because something went wrong. That's part and parcel of doing any of this, is that there are going to be things that go wrong.
Right.
You're not actively trying to find a creative solution, then what are you doing there? Because something's going to end up breaking and stopping the whole thing.
The creative solution is perfect.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I think that's the beautiful thing about art is, art really, you're in the moment doing creative and critical, problem solving. I think, that's something too that with how society is today, especially in like public schools, getting rid of the art program or something, or getting rid of music. It's like, you're getting rid of the key component to problem solving, thinking outside of the box, thinking abstractly. How do you, you're in this little corner. It's like, how do I make this series of notes? How do I get to the next page of music? How do I, construct this piece of sculpture, or, draw this photo? How do I figure out film editing? When you let Bill go, Teacher Bill. I guess you call him Mr. Bill.
I think that how those aspects of creativity translate into the rest of your life is grossly undervalued.
Right. Well, and even with that, like on the scientific level too, I think there's a massive, I would argue that it's the same amount of creativity. It's just more, the chemistry and the math, the logistics, have to be there too. But also, having that abstract thought of like, ooh, what if, we've got these components. What if we can get to X, from Y? Thinking about outside of that box. How do we make that happen? There's that level of creativity that goes into it. Some of the conversations I've been having with people too is on that note, breathing life to new innovations. Your whole world is designed, whether it's engineers or scientists or artists or interior designers or craftspeople, you live in a designed world. If you don't, then you pretty much grew up with wolves. But even then, you probably had to kill the weakest of your wolf pack and wear them as a pelt now. That still requires some ingenuity.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I always want to let people know to kind of think in those terms. That everything is designed and everything is made for you, and it does come from the arts as well as the sciences, and without one without the other, I don't think you have a sustainable world. After all the fun stuff that you've been immersing yourself during COVID, video games, movies, books, music, porn. It derives from a lot of creative talents and problem solvers, and I think that's what you guys are, and that's who I like to host an interview on platforms like this.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the tools people use might be different, but fundamentally they all require creativity, and the framework of society is built on the backs of creatives, and we take it for granted because we're used to seeing it there. And if COVID should teach everybody one thing, it is that we need to fund all of these things that we're enjoying right now.
Right. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Including porn. Anyway.
Don't forget the porn.
Essential services.
Right. Oh man. Well, guys, we're about out of time. But I want to remind everybody out there that's watching to go visit Makeshift Film Group.com and watch these two lovely people in their creative endeavors, and as they branch out, make new films and stuff. Probably after COVID, but hopefully the nonprofit comes through pretty soon, so we can you can get that education aspect going.
Yes.
And side note too, aren't you doing like some film reviews or something that you're sharing online?
Yeah, well, I go and post my opinion on certain movies, and they're not the most polite of reviews. Under a pen name that I've had since when I started writing Board Kids from Random Violence, and that's Mr. Pissed.
Oh, yeah, okay, I remember. Then I have seen those reviews.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at doing some sort of funky filmed version of that, but definitely putting them up as blog posts on the website.
Yeah, right now they just get lost on Nick's Facebook page, so we're going to start sharing them as blog posts and then filming them. So.
Cool. Well, that'll be fun. Make sure to read Mr. Pist's blog posts of amazing film reviews. Thanks so much, Amber, Nick. Thanks for coming on the show and hanging out with me for about an hour. And I can't wait to be able to meet up with you guys in person one day again.
Someday.
Yeah, I've been growing my hair out, so it's gross. Oh man! So everybody out there, and remember, it's Halloween this week, so make sure to enjoy yourselves safely, I guess, on virtual online parties and virtual candy.
Here in the mountains, we can go trick or treating at the liquor store.
Oh gosh, you guys are amazing at
that. It's a thing up here.
Yeah, party for two at their house. Thanks so much, guys. Hang out for a second, but to everybody out there on the internet and Craigslist, have a good night. Be kind, be safe, and happy Halloween!